All right, so let's get into today's book review. If you've been listening to the show since the first of the year, you've known that I am doing book reviews of books that are empowering to me, just a kind of a down-to-earth talk about books that I love because I love books. So today I chose to review 10X Kids by Grant Cardone. And there's a lot of books that Grant Cardone has written that I could have reviewed as my first Cardone book to tell you about. But I chose 10X Kids as the one that I wanted to talk to you about first. Most of y'all probably have heard of Grant Cardone and his work in business and sales and the whole 10X philosophy. This book, 10X Kids, takes those same ideas and translates them into meaningful messages for kids and families. And I mean, I've got to say this up front, like, this isn't a nice, cute bedtime story. This is really a mindset book disguised as a kid's book. So today I want to walk you through 4 reasons why 10X Kids is a valuable tool if you want to teach your children to grow up confident around money, around work, and around opportunity. Let me start with why the book stood out to me. First, to me, it teaches kids to think bigger about money and effort. And he does that without apology. One of the core ideas throughout the book is that thinking small is learned behavior. I mean, think about it. When you're a kid, like, you don't know that you have boundaries on your dreams. And Grant frames this in a way that kids can actually understand it. Like, he talks about goals and efforts and responsibility in simple language, with the underlying message being really powerful. Basically, his message is that you don't need to shrink your dreams to fit somebody else's comfort level. And let me tell you what, even though the book 10X Kids gives that message in a way that is simple and understandable for kids, that message is so key for all of us. If it takes a simple kids book for us to understand that message, then that's what it takes, because that message is so, so powerful. You don't need to shrink your dreams to fit somebody else's comfort level. If they're uncomfortable because you're dreaming big, then let them be uncomfortable. Now, for families, this matters because so many conversations about money are framed around limitations. We can't afford that. It's too expensive. That's not realistic. Like, kids absorb those messages early, even when we think they're not listening. This book flips that script. It encourages kids to ask bigger questions like, how could I earn this thing that I want? How could I create value? How could I solve a problem? That shift from restriction to possibility is really a foundation of financial literacy, because when you make that shift, money stops being something that externally happens to you without your effort. And instead, money becomes something that you yourself have the ability to influence. Powerful, right? Like, all in a kid's book. Second, Grant connects money to effort and responsibility, not entitlement. And that's something that I really, 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 really appreciated about this book, is that 10X Kids does not promote the idea that kids are owed anything. Kids are not owed an allowance. Kids are not owed a pair of shoes. Kids are not owed dinner. Instead, it reinforces a clear connection between effort, contribution, and reward. And this book uses examples that help kids understand that money is a byproduct of value. You earn more money when you provide more value. When you do more, learn more, and help more people, then you get more money. And that's a lesson that a lot of us adults are still trying to learn. For parents, this creates an easy bridge to real conversations at home, chores, side hustles, helping neighbors, saving for something they want. This book gives the language to the parents to explain why money flows toward actions and not wishes. And this is especially useful if you're trying to move away from an allowance as a passive system and toward an allowance as an active system, as an earning system. This is something that my parents taught me whenever I was young, that my allowance was tied to my value, to my performance, to my contribution around the house, to my contribution at school. That was something that, was kind of ingrained in me as a child of entrepreneurial parents. All right, the third point. 10X Kids introduces entrepreneurial thinking without it being complicated. Like a lot of times the word entrepreneurial is even complicated, like it's a long word and it sounds kind of complicated. But 10X Kids and Grant makes this book pretty much not complicated. He talks about ideas about selling and creating income streams in a really age-appropriate way. Now, it's not about turning your 8-year-old into a startup founder and going public. It's about teaching them that there are many ways to earn income, to earn money, other than a paycheck. It normalizes the idea of selling something, whether that's a service, selling a product, selling an idea. And it frames entrepreneurship as creative and empowering, not risky and scary. So for families, this opens the door to simple experiments: lemonade stands, dog walking, online reselling with supervision, of course. Small projects that teach skills like pricing, saving, reinvesting in your business, the confidence to sell whatever it is you're selling. The book gives these kiddos permission to try, and it gives the parents the permission to support that curiosity. All right, the fourth thing that I got out of 10X Kids by Grant Cardone is that it builds confidence out of money conversations at home. One of the biggest barriers to teaching kids about money is our own discomfort with talking about money. Like, a lot of parents think they're not qualified to talk about money with their kids, especially if they're still figuring out money themselves. If they don't feel adequate in the money situation, then they don't feel adequate talking to the kids about it. And so what 10X Kids does well is it removes that intimidation factor. Simple language, clear concepts, and it creates this shared reference point. So instead of lecturing about money, you can say, remember that part in the book about thinking bigger? Or remember how Grant talked about earning instead of waiting? Those shared moments create those conversations, and it makes it feel normal, not awkward. That confidence really matters, so that kids who grow up openly talking about money, they're more likely to make intentional decisions later. They ask better questions, they're less afraid of numbers, they're more willing to take responsibility for their future finances. 10X Kids is not a technical finance manual. It will not teach compound interest. It's not going to teach formulas. It's not going to teach budgeting spreadsheets. But what it does teach is a mindset and an effort and ownership. And those are foundations that make all those technical skills easier to teach later. So if you're a parent who wants your kids to grow up seeing money as a tool, not as a mystery. So here's my bottom line. If you're already familiar with Grant Cardone's work and you want a kid-friendly entry point into those ideas, this book is solid. It is solid Grant Cardone. It is solid 10X philosophy. But if you're new to the 10X world and the 10X philosophy, this is actually a great place to start even for grown-ups, because it really strips the concepts down to the basics of what really matters. So read it with your kids, talk about it, use it as a springboard for small actions at home. That's where the value in this book really shows up for me. So I would love to hear how these conversations are going in your own family. And if you have a book you want me to read, send it my way. Let me know.